Drums in Eurorack are honestly probably a fool's errand. They're very space inefficient, they're certainly very money inefficient, and if you really want drums in your synthesis setup, you're probably much better just having a drum machine. But I really enjoy having a self-contained modular system that has everything I need in it. So for the longest time, I've had in my rack 3 drum modules from TipTop Audio. Their 808 line, imitating the classic 808 analog drum machine. These modules have been really versatile. They sit nicely within my workflow, they're really nice to have, but I do kind of resent the fact that they take up 16 HP. And for me, they're set and forget modules, so I'm not really modulating them very much, I'm not really tweaking the knobs and wiggling around with them, so I wish they were smaller. So last year when XODES, fantastic modular manufacturer, when they announced they were making a row of 1U 808 clones, I mean they're not clones exactly, but they're in the spirit of the 808 sounds, I had to get on board. So I signed up for their Kickstarter, and finally this month, maybe 6 months later, honestly not too much later than they were promised in the Kickstarter campaign, which is impressive in itself, but yeah, and now I finally have them, and here they are, and I'm going to compare them and see how they pair up. Can I take the 3U drum modules out of my case, free up a bit of room, and 16 HP, I mean that's a Mimeophone or Tides and something else. There's a lot of good stuff sat on the sidelines, not in my main case, that I could use this space for. So if I can throw these up into my 1U row, whoa, exciting times. So here we are, I've thrown together a test rig in my palette case. So down here on the bottom left are the TipTop Audio 808 analog drum modules. I've got the bass drum, the snare drum, and the hi-hats. And above them, I've got the new XODES modules. Is it XODES? Is it XODES? I'm going to say XODES from now on, and that's it. Anyway, I've got the kick drum, snare drum, hi-hats. I'm using the Quadrat as my mixer, and just to get some impulses to demo the 4 voices, I'm going to use pressure points for the touchpads, and we'll do some finger drumming. And I've also thrown in Ghost at the end of the chain, just for maybe a bit of reverb and delay if I want. I like Ghost, but it's been sat unracked for a while, so I thought I'd give it a second chance and see what it can do on a drum setup. So, starting with the TipTop modules, this is what they sound like. And it's worth noting at this point that Pressure Points is just sending a single trigger out, a single gate every time I press. Crucially, I'm not putting anything into the accent inputs of the 808s. That will come later. And also, that's a point of concern for me because the XODES modules don't have accent inputs. So that's going to be my main kind of comparison feature, I think. But also just how do the sounds compare? So let's get on and let's hear the XODES modules. Yeah, thumpy kick, can't really tell much difference there. I think the snare and the hats, like, they're not exactly the same, but in like side by side. Yeah, if we do them side by side. So this is the TipTop, this is the XODES. I mean, they do sound different, but I don't think blind I'd be able to tell you which was which without having them side by side. They're similar enough that I think certainly in this kind of scenario where I'm just having single trigger inputs, I mean, they're pretty much interchangeable. And look, I mean, it's taking up a lot of my 1U row, but not much more than I was taking up of my 3U. So there's a massive space saving to be had here. So this is looking promising. And in fact, you can also get 1U to 3U adapters for these. So we could have a little strip that runs up and down. And I think that, like, to get the 6 HP of each of these modules, like, they could stack on top of each other, and that would, I think, the adapter adds a single point of horizontal pitch in either direction. So you have like an 8 HP unit, which is, you know, I've basically ditched the hats module. So even if I rig them in the 3U row, I've gained an extra 8 HP. So as you've noticed, and as I said at the start, my rhythm is terrible, so we're not going to get very far with finger drumming to get accurate comparison. So let's rig up some actual proper drum rhythms. And hey, would you look at this? I've got a grids. I've already done a video on the grids, but I didn't have one at the time, so I built my own using the Droid. I now have this grids. I also might have also got a nano grids as well. Yeah, I've got so many grids now. It's brilliant. I really like this module. So let's see what it can do. So here we go. TipTop beat. And now let's throw it over to the XODES. Oh dear, no, don't like that delay. Won't touch that again. And this is where the lack of an accent really kicks in, because there's so much more expression on the TipTop one. So I think, so with the accents in the mix, it makes it a harder choice, because I do enjoy that variety. So in fact, let's swap out, get the Droid in play, and we can use the Droid's fantastic button interface to show what's actually happening, and we can have more of an overview of how the regular hits and the accents are working together, and see if I really do miss that with the XODES. Now we have racked up my Droid setup, and this is a condensed version of it. So normally I run all the drum triggers out of the Gates expander, freeing up most of the Droid outputs for CV value stuff that isn't just sort of on-off triggers. But for the sake of space, I've left that out. I'm not including any parts of the Droid that aren't necessary for the drum sequencing section. The way I've got it set up, I'm using the algoquencer to generate rhythms, which is a circuit within the Droid. You can see my grids video for more information about how that works, and these knobs basically are the same as the grid's fill, so I can add extra activity into the bass drum and snare drum patterns algorithmically rather than actually having to manually program them in. My controllers here, I've stuck little sticky labels on to help me remember what they are. The drum section of my Droid setup doesn't change very much, so I'm keeping it like this for the time being. This here is supposed to indicate swing. This is just a regular clock. You can go really slow down to stopped and pretty fast. I've got play pause for the rhythm and a reset button that just sets the pattern back to the beginning. Down here I've got mute switches for my bass drum, snare drum, open hat and closed hat. The B32 is what's doing the actual sequencing, so each pattern has two columns. So in this instance we're looking at the bass drum and snare drum patterns. So columns 1 and 2 are the bass drum, 3 and 4 are the snare, and then if I hit this button here I switch to the second set of patterns. So this is now open hats, closed hats patterns. And then back over here, branches we can ignore for the moment because that's an algoquencer thing that just kind of spices up the variety. But I've got a button that lets me change the length of the sequence. And crucially for our experiments with these drum modules, I have this little star here. It switches us to the accent view. So now the pattern positions are the same, but what I'm programming in are the accents. So regular snare, add in some accents. And now let's throw it over to the XODES. I mean, the real surprise from the story is that I really don't like working with the delay on the Ghost. It's really tricky. I can't get this pattern. I can't. No. I mean, I know I'm not clocking it, and that makes a big difference. But yeah, I mean, come on, let's try it. Let's get the clock going, and let's see what happens. So in conclusion, what do we think? Well, I'm not going to get rid of the TipTop modules. I'm going to keep them because that accent control is so useful. I'll probably rack them in a pod maybe and have a little standalone drum unit. But they are going to come out of my main rack where space is at a premium. And I'm going to switch them up for these XODES ones because the sound is very similar. They are both inspired by the 808. They both sound a bit like an 808. Every 808, but I'm told, I've never played one for real, but I'm told that the way the circuits are put together, they all sound a little bit different anyway. So yeah, I can live with that. And for the precision and the, or should I say lack of precision in what I do, I'm just putting down some standard patterns to play with. Like kick snare hats is enough to have fun with. Now this beat sounds familiar. Let me just grab the guitar real quick. It's too fun. It's too fun. In terms of singular trigger, like simple triggers, these new 1U modules, just as good as the TipTop ones. Love them. I'm sold. These are great. I'm really glad I got these. I look forward to using them in my rack, and I also look forward to the things I can put in the space that was previously taken up by these 3U modules. And you know what? This reminds me of something as well. Well, thanks for humouring me with that little bit of silliness. Now that I can condense them to such a small space, I'm tempted to get the toms and congas, and I need to work out maybe a clap and a rim shot, but they don't have those yet in the XODES line, but they do have a kind of a tom conga module. Question is, which of these should you buy? And I would say it very much depends on two factors. One, how much space do you have, including 1U space? And two, do you need accents? Because otherwise, the sounds of these two ranges of modules are very similar. They kind of functionally fill the same role. I would be happy switching between either of these if I'm just using single triggers. Much the same price, about $75 US, I think, thereabouts. And I picked up these TipTop ones for the same on Reverb. Yeah, it's all good stuff. The next step, of course, is to get better at learning drums and programming them. So yeah, I'm going to go and watch some Captain Picamp videos, and I'll get back to you if I ever get good.